today and appreciate the shift to 8 a.m. We do expect to go back to our normal 9 a.m. Schedule for future meetings, but appreciate your flexibility for today. To kick it off today, Beth, I'm going to ask you to take the roll.
Yes, Trustee Kane,
I'm here.
Trustee Cates,
Here.
Trustee Flood,
Here.
Trustee Michaud,
Here.
Trustee Riley,
Here.
Trustee McMahon,
Here.
Trustee Alexander,
Present.
Trustee Rosen,
Here.
Trustee Gordon.
Here.
I believe that's your.
Awesome. Yeah, we're glad to have all of us here today. I also see Clyde is here as well, faculty rep. Good morning, Clyde. Thank you. And of course, our wonderful system leadership and presidents. So we're going to kick off our agenda today. I'll remind everyone to please leave yourself muted when you are not speaking. Today's agenda, we have a number of facilities things to go over and some regular reports. I will just say, right now, just for the sort of announcement section here, we do have the committee work plan, as we usually do, on the agenda. I've worked up a survey that Beth and I are going to get out later this week for FFT committee members that asks you to look at the work plan, and if there are things missing, sort of doing a survey of what you feel you need to know more about, what you want to understand better, or areas where you're all set. So you can look for that survey tool to come to you via email, likely later this week. But I wanted to flag that and thank Ryan for his feedback on my draft survey. So we'll get started. Our first item under tab 1 is the steam pit and emergency steam line repairs at UMaine. I'd see President Franny Mundy, I think. No, I don't. Ryan, who's taking this one?
I think Jenny's ready to roll.
Jenny, there you are. Jenny, good morning, Jenny. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. So the first item that we have for UMaine today is requesting authorization for $900,000 in emergency repairs for steam line concrete tunnels that were identified as an issue during our North Campus infrastructure project. We actually mentioned this to you during the July meeting when you were on campus, that we had some places in the road that had collapsed because I'll try to raise my hand so you can see my visual. The concrete dome that goes over some of the steam and condensate lines, which was installed 60 to 70 years ago, has at this point collapsed and needs to be repaired on an emergency basis. So we are requesting authorization to make those repairs, and that will be with E&G dollars.
Any questions for Jenny this morning? We have discussed this before, but I do see Trish, and then we'll go Trish, then Barb.
Thank you, Jenny. I know we've talked a lot about this effort, and this was what we feared, that there would be these unanticipated breakages. Is there any way to do an assessment of how many more of these channels are at risk? And could you remind us what the timeline is to get the steam plant up and going again?
This is not part of the steam plant project.
Okay.
I would want to separate that as a different project all in and of itself. This is related to the steam lines that flow across campus and are moving the steam and condensate, which goes back to the steam plant.
Right.
There are 4.8 miles of steam line under campus,
Yeah.
Most of which was installed 60 to 70 years ago and is still in its original condition. It is difficult to evaluate that while it is all underground utility infrastructure. There have been assessments of the steam pits. We've brought those to you in the past, but the steam lines and concrete themselves are more difficult to assess. It is something that we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Alexander.
I completely understand the need for emergency repairs. Going back to the first issue, there are camera type systems that would allow inspection underground for these things. I would urge you to explore that. But my question had to do with the fact that this is an expensive repair and it's going to put a hole in your E&G budget. And I just wanted a discussion from you or who you represent with regard to the potential for problems with your budget as a result of this kind of repair and the potential that others may be popping up this year.
Thank you for that. We are funding this out of what it would be our funded depreciation, so it is requiring us to shift other projects that we may have wanted to do to fund this emergency repair.
Would there be an appropriate presentation of the budget implications of this and what you're not doing that we might have already approved in the current fiscal year budget, or is this something that is not ready for a presentation today?
That is not ready for presentation today, but it's something I can work on for you if you're interested in seeing how we are utilizing our funded depreciation monies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's a great example of something we can put on potentially on the survey. It's a well-timed request. Trustee Gordon.
2 quick questions. I'm a big yes, but this work is this work already done?
This work is already done, yes.
So we're just voting for work in arrears. And is there, and not for today, but is there a long-term plan to get away from steam and some of this stuff and get into greener energy, more sustainable energy? And is that work been done?
We have reviewed options as part of we have a larger steam plant project that was approved by the trustees for revenue bonding as one of the many funding sources last May. We did look at if we could do different types of fuel sources as well as different types of heating infrastructure, all of which were far more expensive and would require significant infrastructure changes that we can't afford to do.
Not for now, but sometime I'd love to see some of that research if we could.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions about this item? All right, seeing none, I will read the text of the resolution that the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee authorizes the University of Maine system, acting through the University of Maine, to spend up to $900,000 for emergency repairs to the steam line concrete tunnel along Long Road near the University Mall and Memorial Gym Drive, and replacement of the failed steam condensate line extending from the steam pit near Long Road along Gym Drive toward Bennett Hall. Any questions or discussion? And I can have the motion. Yep.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those, well, Beth, you can take the roll, please. Sorry. I just was moving towards with all those in favor. Beth, if you could please take the roll.
Yes. Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
Yes.
Trustee Rosen,
Yes.
Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you all very much. Jenny, I think you are probably the lead on our next item as well.
I think I am.
Mahaney Diamond renovations at UMaine, tab 2.
Tab 2.
Great.
So I have Jude Walsh also here to support me on
Welcome.
this.
Athletic Director Jude Walsh.
Yes, and this is seeking authorization for the University of Maine to expend up to $2.6 million for renovations on the Mahaney Diamond baseball complex. And this is different from the authorization that we saw earlier, which was for maintenance work on the clubhouse. This is to fund, the scope would be replacement of the existing synthetic turf field, relocation of the fencing, construction of new bullpens, and for both the home and visiting teams, installation of netting, associated earthwork, and landscaping improvements, all to address our athletic programs. And funding will come from both the Harold Alfond Foundation and the required philanthropic match.
Thank you, Jenny. Jude, do you have anything you want to add before we open it up to questions? No, thumbs up from you. Great. Any questions about this project and the funding? Yes, Roger. Chair Gates.
So thanks for the presentation. The required match, is this a specific match that you can identify that's been made, or is this the general overall global athletic match, if you will?
This would be part of the overall athletic match.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Great. Trustee Michaud.
Yep. Quick question. I might have missed it. What do you do with the old turf? Is it good enough that maybe a school could utilize it, or do you landfill it? What do you do with the old turf?
I would look to Jude for help with
Yeah,
that question.
It is no longer usable. What happens with that usually is that the company will take it away. I'm not sure what they do with it at that point. But part of the issue that we have is that I think we're about 17 years in or 16 years in on the current turf. So it's well past its useful life. It would be a liability to give to someone else at this point, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jenny or Jude about this item? Seeing none, I will read the text of the resolution that the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee approves the following resolution to be forwarded to the consent agenda for Board of Trustee approval at the September 28th, 2026 board meeting. That the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee and authorizes the University of Maine system, acting through the University of Maine, to expend up to $2.6 million for the renovations to the Mahaney Diamond Baseball Complex. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beth, could you please take the vote?
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
Yes.
Trustee Rosen,
Yes.
Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. And welcome to President Franny Mundy. Jenny, we're going to stick with you for tab 3.
I would certainly defer to the president if she would like to address it, or
I'm
I
sure
can
you're doing
carry
just
on.
fine, Jenny. Thank you.
Jenny
Go
is
ahead.
doing a great job. So tab 3 is the TeamWorks Athletics software, the consolidated multi-year agreements that you made.
Yes, thank
Jenny,
you.
we'll start with you.
Thank you. So this is requesting authorization for a multi-year TeamWorks athletic software arrangement not to exceed $1.55 million over a 10-year term. This request will consolidate the university's existing TeamWorks agreements with a new pending module, which is called TeamWorks General Manager and include TeamWorks Wallet, allowing us to encompass our current 5-year renewal of the master agreement. And we want to be sure we are following the APL now that that consolidation would exceed $500,000. So Jude can certainly address some of the specific benefits that we expect to see by implementing all of the components of the TeamWorks agreement. But this would be, again, $1.55 million for a 10-year term of this software package.
Jude, did you want to weigh in on this one? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'd be happy to. One of the things that I just want to point out is that, we did have prior approval on the TeamWorks deal. And so this would really be another 100,000 on top of what we already are currently contracted for under the master services agreement. But basically with TeamWorks, they offer a suite of products that are helpful for us operationally. So from team communication, logistics, scheduling, they do that. They have a compliance software that we currently use. We're transitioning them for a sports medicine software. They have an inventory software for equipment and apparel. So what this enables us to do with GM and Wallet is literally consolidate that on this exact same platform with everything else. And then the business side of this is what would help us. We would utilize this for direct pay for our student athletes and eventually into other things such as per diem. Right now, we probably have 15 people involved in our direct pay process. It's incredibly cumbersome. And I think the efficiency in the $104,000 definitely maximizes staff time, both in athletics and payroll and procurement. So that's why we're looking to do this.
Thank you, Jude. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I
go
would
ahead.
add that the component that would support the direct pay piece would be funded with private fundraised dollars and not ENG dollars.
Thanks, Jenny. I see a question from Trustee Gordon and then Trustee Alexander.
Yeah, thank you. Jude, is this how the NIL money gets distributed to the athletes?
Yeah, for any quote internal NIL money, direct pay revenue share, this would be how we would do it. We're currently cutting hard copy physical checks.
Yeah, and so what would happen? It would go from your account to the student's account, and then there's whatever record keeping. And I mean, how does that all work? I mean, do you have to demonstrate that to somebody like the NCAA, or how does that work?
We don't have to demonstrate it to them. We do have to do an annual attestation about what we've provided. So we fall under, currently you can distribute up to $20.5 million above and beyond your former scholarship limit. Clearly we're not going to do $20.5 million, but we do record that, and we have to verify that with our coaches' compliance, the president and myself, and then submit that to the NCAA on an annual basis.
So this system would capture all that?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Trustee Alexander.
So this is a software and a company that you currently deal with?
Yes, it's a new not new. It would be a new product for us. But the software in the company, yes, we deal with already.
And one of the risks involved in dealing with these software companies is the viability of the company itself, and the risks associated with the company having business defects and problems. And I'm just wondering, when was the last time there was a good look at the financials of this company and the allocation of risks in terms of their failure to perform?
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. I don't know to answer that question for you. What I can tell you is that they're working with about 90% of Division I schools right now in a variety of these areas that I mentioned, whether it's through GM Wallet. They also work with most professional sports teams, professional soccer and professional football. But yeah, I certainly would be happy to inquire about that.
Right. It's just a basic who are we dealing with and what happens if kind of question with these software companies. That would be good to put on the list. But thank you.
Sure. Okay.
I can speak to that a little bit. The contracts, when we go through this, does go through IT as well as our legal counsel for review. So that is part of the evaluation process.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gretchen. Any other questions on the TeamWorks software? Great. Seeing none, I will read the text of the resolution that the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee approves the following resolution to be forwarded to the consent agenda for Board of Trustee approval at the September 28th, 2026 board meeting, that the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee and authorizes the University of Maine system acting through the University of Maine to license the TeamWorks Athletics software suite for a total amount not to exceed $1,550,000 over the potential 10-year term of the arrangement, comprising executed agreements totaling $661,910, the pending TeamWorks GM, including wallet agreement totaling $104,020, and one optional 5-year renewal of the master agreement with the new TeamWorks GM module funded through private fundraised sources. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll
Yes.
second.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Beth, if you could take the vote.
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
Yes.
Trustee Rosen,
Yes.
Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Great, thank you so much. Jenny, I think you are off the hook for the next one. Thank you so much for taking tabs 1 through 3. At tab 4, we have the Bailey Hall facade replacement budget increase at USM. And I think Justin Swift is here.
Yes.
Oh, and Jackie's here too. Good morning, President.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Trustee. Good morning, Trustee Kane. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. This item is with the University of Southern Maine is seeking authorization to expend an additional $3.2 million for the Bailey Hall facade replacement. As you recall, this is a multi-year project. The work started this summer with a chiller and design phase, and we're seeking authorization to move into the next phase of the project. And so I'll turn it over to our CBO and Vice President for Finance and Administration, Justin Swift, to give a little more detail. Thank you.
So good morning. I'll just give you some quick background. Bailey Hall, as you might recall, is on our Gorham campus. About 80% of our Gorham classes take place in this building. The building was constructed in 1958 with additions in 1961 and 1969. This past January, the board authorized the University of Southern Maine to expend up to $4.45 million to complete the first phase of a multi-phase project for the building envelope replacement. The first phase, which was completed this summer and within budget, included the installation of a chilled water plant and design work for the next phase of the project. Today, for your consideration, we are requesting authorization to expend up to $3.2 million for the next phase of this project. This project is funded from our E&G funds and is included in our multi-year capital plan. The next phase of this project will include the facade replacement of the northeast side of the building as indicated in the AIS. The work will enhance the exterior of the building and improve the interior environment with better climate control, making the building more comfortable for classes, labs, offices, and conferences throughout the year. This work will help the building meet the expectations of today's students now and into the future. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Looks like we have a question from Chair Cates and Trustee Gordon.
Thanks very much. Justin, could you just remind us again the total scope of the project and the total dollar amount and what other phases will follow this request?
Yeah, so after this request, we expect that there'll be 7 more phases. And, we expect this to be about a 10-year project in duration. There are a couple of reasons why we're breaking it out this way. When the project is complete, it will replace the exterior envelope of the building, including the roof. In addition, the building will have air conditioning at the end. It does not have that now. And so, as I mentioned, the building houses about 80% of our academic courses on the Gorham campus. So I can't take the building offline for 2 years and just do this as a single project. So most of the work is occurring in the summer months. The second reason is financial. So by breaking it up, I'm able to pay for this out of our depreciation budget. And so at the end of all the phases, this project will be done and we will have no debt on it.
Thanks, Justin. And again, but the total cost will be approximately what in today's
We expect
dollars?
it to be about $28 million.
Total or
Total.
more? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Trustee Gordon.
Roger asked my question, but just I get the 10 years because you don't want the disruption, but man, that's a long time to be under construction. I mean, if there's any way to condense any of those phases and work double time in the summer, it's got to be cheaper, right? Because once they mobilize and start going, but I mean, I totally defer to you, but 10 years of pain seems like a long time. Just a thought.
It is something that we really considered and thought a lot about too. And as I mentioned, part of it's a financial resource thing.
Sure.
The other factor too is, it's very expensive to have crews working at night too to try to get this project done. So I'm not sure if there would be that much in cost savings there.
And just one final comment, Jackie gave me a tour, President gave me a tour of the campus last week and it was fantastic. So I really appreciate that. That was very time well spent. So thank you for the tour.
We're so glad you could join us. So thank you.
That's awesome. I love that. Are there any other questions about this project? Yes, Gretchen, I can see you physically raising your hand. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to build on Trustee Gordon's question because I think USM did a great job in trying to plan ahead with this item. For example, purchasing the chiller unit ahead of time so that they could limit the liability of potentially increased costs of shipping, et cetera. So they're doing their best to plan ahead, and that's a great example of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. That's helpful. Any other comments or questions about Bailey Hall? All right, thank you so much. I will read the text of the resolution that the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee approves the following resolution to be forwarded for Board of Trustee approval at the September 28th, 2026 board meeting. That the Board of Trustees authorizes the University of Maine system acting through the University of Southern Maine to expend up to an additional $3,200,000 for the Bailey Hall facade replacement project, bringing the total budget to $7,650,000, allowing the completion of Phase 1 construction for the Bailey Hall facade replacement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, Beth, if you could take the vote.
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
Yes.
Trustee Rosen,
Yes.
Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you all very much. And we are now moving to tab 5, which I see President Ray Rice here from UMPI to talk about the Govan Family Center for Cultural Arts renovation, the project status. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair Kane. And good morning to everybody. I'm here with my CBO, Megan Desjardins, so she'll take you through the details of this, but this is our project status and our cost estimate that we're looking at, up to $7 million. This is a project that has been needed to be undertaken for about 2 decades, to be honest, since just after I came here. And it stems from an earmark of $4 million that was procured a couple of years ago. And my CBO will take you through where the other $3 million is coming to bring this project to fruition. But the timeline would be to begin construction after commencement next May. So that'd be May of 2027. With that, I'll turn it over to my CBO.
Thank you, President Rice. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to bring this project forward as an information-only item. The auditorium in Wadeen Hall was constructed in 1960 and has served UMPI in the greater Aroostook County community for more than 60 years without a substantial renovation. With approximately 420 seats, it remains our primary assembly and performance venue and supports lectures, performances, regional school events, conferences, alumni programming, and major university activities. The driving force behind this project is accessibility, safety, and the long-term viability of the facility. Following the $4 million federal earmark awarded to UMPI in fiscal year 2024, we engaged WBRC to complete a comprehensive building evaluation and to work with campus stakeholders to determine what would be necessary to bring the space forward to its next several decades of use. That evaluation confirmed that this project needs to be more than a cosmetic renovation. It is an opportunity to address the facility's most critical accessibility, safety, infrastructure, and technology needs in a coordinated way. The result will be a modern, accessible, multi-purpose space that can better support UMPI's academic and cultural programming while serving an important gathering space for the greater Aroostook County community. Based on the building evaluation and concept estimate, we are currently planning for an all-in project cost of up to $7 million. We've identified $6.5 million through the $4 million federal earmark and $2.5 of UMPI resources, including capital reserves and donations received in previous years from the auditorium. UMPI is planning to fund the remaining $500,000 through E&G resources. This investment is about more than improving an aging facility. It is about strengthening an important university asset in a way that better serves our students, our campus, and the greater Aroostook County community. The vision is for the Govan Family Center for Cultural Arts to function as a true regional cultural and education center, a space that supports university programming, while also attracting outside performances, conferences, workshops, school events, and community programming. Over time, we also want to increase utilization of the facility and build an operating module where expanding outside programming can help support the ongoing costs of this space. Our goal is to make a facility that is not only more accessible, modern, and functional, but one that continues to grow in value to both UMPI and the region for decades to come. Thank you, and President Rice and I are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, President Rice. I see a question from Chair Cates.
Thanks very much, and thanks for your presentation. A couple of questions. First of all, am I correct that this does not increase the square footage of the building, but just does the upgrades you talked about?
You are correct.
Okay, and secondly, one of the obviously the benefits of having the University of Maine and Presque Isle is the incredible role it plays in the community. Could you talk a little bit about that now, about how much this facility is currently used by the community for other events, and how you anticipate that might even increase after these renovations?
Of course, it's currently used for a lot of speakers on our campus. We use it for convocation, but primarily for outside community, a lot of cultural events. We have a lot of cultural events that we market and bring speakers from all over the state of Maine up to Aroostook County for the public to view. And we're hoping to continue that. Recently, or soon to come, we will be celebrating ex-President Zillman's memorial, and the Portland Ballerina will actually be coming up to UMPI and looking to perform on stage. And we're looking to include more than that in years to come.
Okay. I apologize for my ignorance about the Presque Isle community, but are there competing or other facilities like this anywhere nearby, or is this pretty much it for a several hundred seat event space?
There's a facility at Caribou, the Caribou Performing Arts Center, which is also used by the high school up there. So this is the only facility that is intended for cultural use as well as campus use. So it also includes the community players and the community musicals, which are performed 5 times a year. They had 2 performances this summer, for instance, which also include university students most of the time. So, and we would expect that to be that usage to increase after its renovation. It would also, just an important point to meet EO compliance, it will reduce the seating, I think by about 50 seats or something, because the seating is also currently, the size of the seating does not meet compliance.
It sounds like Fenway Park. Thanks.
Or the Grand Ole Opry.
Confused. Yeah, often confused for each other. Absolutely. Trustee Alexander.
I was interested in the concept, cost estimate, and project budget paragraph here on page 22. So I take it that you do not have a competitive bid result yet for this project?
No, not yet. We haven't gone out to bid yet.
Okay, and so I'm concerned about not, at this point, I think it's fair to say we really have less than supportable evidence about the actual costs that might be borne by the university system here. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about this estimate of 2.5 million from capital reserves and donations. In other words, what kind of effort is underway, or do you intend to pursue here with regard to the donations part, and what portion of the capital reserves is being allocated to this in your view at this point? Thank you.
Of course. So I'd say that WDR WBRC has done its due diligence in the cost estimate. They actually have third-party reviewers come in to estimate the total project cost. I have faith in their $7 million, up to $7 million project cost. As far as the 2.5 million, when we sign the earmark, we are obligated. We have an obligation about 2.2 million. The remaining we already have as donations, as this has been a long-term project for quite some time, as President Rice has indicated. We currently, in this fiscal year, have been able to set aside about $3 million in capital reserves, which would more than be able to fund this project. But of course, donations or fundraising is what we're actually trying to pursue a little bit more. So currently our executive director is looking at the cost of chairs, if we can potentially get donations for a chair, to have a chair named, potential curtains cost and or lighting. We've definitely had some interest within Versant donating for lighting and or potential Lions Club for curtains. So we're still pursuing that avenue, but we are more than capable of funding this entire project.
And so just one more question. How will this come back to us at the point at which you need a vote?
And I presume that our next meeting, I do have a meeting with WBRC this week, but I would hope that our next F15 meeting, I'd be coming back with a vote for the true cost. So
Ryan, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna remind the committee, especially for newer members, that anytime an item is over 5 million, we ask the campus or the institution to come here first and like present it as an information item so that we can have just the kind of dialogue that we're having right now. What we didn't want, and this was a change we made several years ago, was, we come here with a $20 million item, explain it in 1 minute and expect you to vote on it 10 minutes later. And so it's always with the understanding that there will still be moving parts when we come here with the information item. We get good feedback, and then when it's ready, and if it's ready at the next meeting, then that's great. If it takes 2 meetings, whatever that is, we'll be back with all the documentation like you would expect for anything that we would ask you to vote for.
If I could just follow up one item, when this does come back for a vote, whenever you're prepared to do that, a more detailed explanation of the fundraising and the commitment and the specific aspects of this project that you want to do in that vein, that would be very helpful to me. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
We'll also make sure you can see the WBRC's actual data and their actual presentation. It's been a very, from my perspective, a painfully protracted but necessary process. Even to get to this point, to be able to put this in front of you as an informational thing. But yes, when the entire process is there, we'll make sure all of that information, including the expected fundraising, is presented.
Thank you, President Rice. I see Trustee McMahon has a question.
Just a quick question, Ray. Have you been involved with Northern Maine Community College on this? Is there some way that they can share the usage or share the cost in some way?
We have had some conversations, and that may actually impact potential fundraising.
Thank you.
I don't
David,
wanna-
Mark, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I just didn't want to go into more detail because those are ongoing conversations, but that does include the ability of the community college that does not have a performative area such as this to be able to utilize it, and they would be welcome to utilize it.
That's great. Thank you. It sounds like a really exciting project. It's a great conversation. Are there any other questions or comments related to this information item? Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you, President Rice. We'll move on now to tab 6, which is the IT project updates. And I see Robert Placido is here and ready to go with the presentation. So good morning.
Good morning, and welcome and congratulations, Chair Kane. So exciting.
Thank you.
I have 4 projects to update you on today. And what I want you to leave with is a clear picture of where these four efforts stand, including one where the timeline may move, just to be transparent about that. And keep in mind that I picked these four out of our 150 open projects. So when you're having a conversation about the calendar, maybe we could do a theme because we do have reoccurring projects throughout the year. So whatever you all want me to present on, but I thought you would appreciate these today.
Thank you.
So the four projects tell one story in 3 layers, plus I wanted to include a recap and some more information about a project we talked about last time, which is our advanced donor system migration. So we are adding layers of security at every angle. Very difficult for the team to keep up, particularly with the advent of AI attacks, cyber attacks. But the team that we have in place right now is doing a marvelous job. I don't want to overstate the scary elements, but I do want to be transparent about the numbers. So we are far along in a multi-year project to secure our state network. We're improving, and that's statewide, and I'll give you more detail. We're improving our email security, which is where nearly every compromise starts. And we're improving our management and security identity system, which is how people prove who they are when they sign into all of our systems. Then, of course, I've already said the fourth project is a replacement of our decades-old advancement fundraising system across all the universities, and I'll do them in that order. So first, let me start with the network because it changes what the university owns infrastructure can do about cyber attacks. Today, when a large-scale attack is aimed at one of our universities, it arrives at the campus doorstep, and we have to control and absorb it right there. The work underway moves the defense upstream to our regional statewide network, fiber network, that we already own and operate under the brand of Network Maine. When you hear Network Maine, that has been sort of a black box in the past, but that is us. We actually run the state's network for K-12, for the Maine State Library, for the prison system, for the executive branch of the government, as well as other agencies. And then on the side of that, we have a research network, which we can talk about. I presented once before, but maybe that would be something that I could do a refresher on each year. So this build out was funded by the Public Utility Commission over a multi-year project. And three things are happening. First, we're rebuilding the core of that network in Orono and Portland. That includes 4 commercial size routers in total. New high capacity line cards in both edge routers are already complete and installed. Importantly, that work added redundancy. So if a failure of a single card no longer takes services down, the replacement of both aggregation routers with concurrent and current generation platform is in progress now. So the second phase that the platform will bring is traffic filtering into the network itself. And this is at scale of trillions of bytes per second. In practice, that would previously have taken a campus offline, gets discarded upstream and never reaches it. Volumes, orders of magnitude beyond what any campus firewall could survive. So third, we're adding carrier class security sensors at the core so that our own security staff can see wide area threats before they reach us. And stand-up temporary protective filtering for sites in minutes rather than days. And I want to be precise about one thing. These sensors detect attack patterns, not content. So encryption is neither broken nor bypassed. This is not a system for looking at it, what individuals are doing, but determining what evil actors are trying to attack. On a university side, We're pairing the hardware with operational investment, the significant expansion of our security monitoring platform, a modern IT service management, and a formal on-call operations. That's what turns the new equipment into around-the-clock capability in the hands of UMS security staff. This is roughly a $2.8 million program through fiscal 2030, funded, as I said, through the Public Utility Commission. The system operates, again, connecting all of our schools and libraries and so forth. Because those schools and libraries ride the same network, the protection we're building for ourselves protects several hundred community institutions at the same time, most of which have no security staff of their own. And that's the public value use case. It's such a gem that we were able to collaborate with the state CIO, the state's lead librarian, and other agency leads to make this happen and continue to make it happen, because it is an ongoing collaboration. So to be clear, securing traffic inside our campuses uses different technology and will require future investment. That work is in future phases, but we're doing this in layers and attacking the most critical priorities first. And I can sort of see everybody.
Just pause. Let's say, I'm looking at the group too. If anybody has any questions about the security piece, we can always come back to it, but maybe take a pause. Robert, the slides are great and very informative.
Okay.
I now know that TBPS was it trillion bytes per second? Is that what that? I read it as tablespoon the first time, and then it was no, the letters are different. Any questions about security that come to mind? Yes, Chair Cates.
So, Robert, thank you. Do you have any sense of how much money we are spending on this Department of Defense, if you will, as part of what we're doing? It all sounds perfectly appropriate, and it looks great. But in this new world, how much are we spending just on defense? Do you have a clue?
I have the numbers. I don't have them in front of me.
Okay.
I can tell you that we don't spend enough. And that's where we're going with this next piece too. The first priority I had was to get the commercial grade enterprise security out on our networks, and the PUC and my colleagues who help run Network Maine were very supportive of all that. So all of that investment is there. But internally, we are being attacked. We showed just through email alone in the last month 100,000 attacks. And each one of those attacks is something that we have to mitigate at some level. And we have a 3-person team to do that, which I'll mention. So we definitely do not, and we could spend $1 billion on this, but it's all about balancing spend with risk and so forth. So that's why I want security to be something that I always bring to you all, so that you're well informed and help us make these decisions.
Great. Well, thanks for that perspective.
Yeah.
Trustee Flood, then Trustee Alexander.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's excellent. And it was interesting to hear that so much of what you're doing in this defense is collaboration with K through 12 schools, libraries, etc. My question may sound overly direct, but are others sharing in the expense of all the work that you are doing? Is it an equal share of expenditure within this collaborative effort? That's my question. Thanks.
Yes, and I think what I'm hearing is I'll bring a recap of Network Maine to the next FFT, and I'll go through the budget with you all. I could also share, we have to submit a board budget to that group and the PUC every year, and I'll share that with the board office, and they can share it with you too. But I can go through it next time. Essentially, we get about half of the total funding from the federal government through an E-rate program. We get almost another half of it from the Public Utility Commission in the state of Maine, which is collected via telecommunication tax. And then we get Department of Education kicks in about 700,000, and we kick in about 700,000. So it is a great value to all the agencies involved, and more than the dollars saved. There's no way these small agencies could provide the enterprise level of security they need to protect our students at these, particularly the rural institutions, could not afford to do it. If they could even get high-speed bandwidth to those locations, that's one of the things that we have overcome. Is we have fiber, we run the fiber across the entire state to make all this work. And there are areas of the state that is just not lucrative enough for a commercial enterprise to go up there. If we didn't operate the E-rate program through the federal government, to have operational staff that we provide, to have locations, we have locations that we man, and some of it is partner agencies or some of it is our own internal. So it is a great example of how a state can get something done at a really high level and share the resources. So I would say, yeah, absolutely, we are all winning for this.
Thank you. It certainly seems like you're providing excellent leadership for the collaborative. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Trustee Alexander.
Actually, Trustee Flood's question answered my preliminary question, which was where the funding was coming from. It sounds like it would be a really good idea to keep an eye on the consistency of the federal funding here, and just while I wouldn't expect a detailed briefing on that at this point, the risk here, of course, is the lack of funding dries up at some point. And I just wonder if the description of where this money comes from and what guarantee we have about its continuation at some point would be helpful for the board to understand. Thank you.
Okay,
That's great.
Absolutely. I'll bring that back next time. And this, you're absolutely spot on. At the federal level, administration has a proposal out there that could threaten the E-rate portion of our funding. And we have the opportunity to comment, which we are doing in coordination with the Maine State Librarian. Their office is going to comment. State CIO has already sent in his comments, and we'll see if that has any effect. But yeah, both the Public Utility Commission program and the federal program have risks because they were built on a telecommunication tax system. And as you all know, very few people have a copper phone line sitting in their home anymore, and that's what was paying for it. So we fall, and nationally we have conversations at organizations like Internet2 and the Quilt about these very issues to try and push legislators in the right direction. So, but I will bring that back next time. I appreciate all the interest there.
That's great.
Should I move on?
Yeah, let's go on to project 2. Thank you.
Go back here. So from the network, let me move to email. Email is the entry point for nearly every compromise, as I mentioned before. We managed that in the past few years fairly manually, which was a surprise to me coming in. With only, as I mentioned, three people in that department. We do have a new CIO CISO, that's Chief Security Officer, that I introduced you to in a previous meeting. Fabulous. He's bringing a very proactive approach to the program instead of just policy and recovery. He's standing up systems that prevent things from happening in the first place. But here's just to paint you the picture. In 2025, we confirmed 353 account compromises. Through June of this year, that number is only 61. That improvement is not a quieter threat environment. It's actually much heavier, but it's primarily a result of the program you approved last year for us to go to multi-factor authentication for all employees, which has had a dramatic effect on stopping the account compromises. But we still, had hundreds of phishing campaigns that we had to manage by hand. And that last phrase is the problem, by hand. So every one of those compromises was validated and cleaned manually by that team. And in July, a single phishing campaign compromised 14 accounts and generated over 10,000 internal messages. We had another incident last week that went out to almost 2,000 students after a single account compromise. So it's just an overwhelming task to recover and manage the risk. The team does a marvelous job taking those risks and those compromises out as quickly as possible to reduce any sort of actual physical or fiscal impact. And we would report that to you and others if there were actually money stolen. So what we did, and what I would ask my teams to do for any type of project like this before we spend any money, is confirm that there is an actual need, that the software actually does what the vendors say. So this spring, the Information Security Office ran a passive proof of concept with a platform called Abnormal AI on our live mail system. In 30 days, it classified almost 100,000 attacks reaching mailboxes, our internal staff. Most of them plain text. Social engineering, if you're not familiar with that, is an email that says, "Congratulations, you've won a free iPad, and here's a link to collect your device." And you click on the link, and now they've compromised your account and your system, and so forth. And it's still the easiest way for people to get into our accounts. So on the purchase side, and I see everybody was paying attention to this process this morning for the other projects that came forward. So I want to assure you that first, the price, we went through a consortium at deep educational discounting, covering all of our 64,000 mailboxes, because obviously we're doing this for students, faculty, staff, and all of the persons of interest that have email accounts with us. We came in, and of course it's a fraction of retail price. We came in under our approved FY27 budget that we had to submit months ago. We negotiated out a vendor usage language. Our attorney team is so helpful when we go through these procurement processes to redline items that are standard in vendor language. And the biggest thing for us was, well, two things: language that lets us exit the contract if it's not working out, which is something we're adding to all of our IT contracts. And then the vendor is contractually barred from using any of our information to train if they do use AI on any of this. So what does it actually do? In simple terms, it detects an attack coming through our email, and it removes it from every affected mailbox at once, system-wide. So the hundreds of hand quarantine campaigns become an automatic action that runs in seconds. It detects, if it even allows it to get to the mailbox, it detects compromised accounts and can contain them automatically so that there's not exponential risk. It flags supplier impersonation and invoice fraud. This is something you've probably heard about, where our procurement office or companies have procurement offices where they get invoices that aren't legitimate, and they look legitimate because they have people's names on them and brands and so forth, and so they get paid and they shouldn't. So we have a layer there to detect that invoice fraud if it comes through email. And then the second phase that somehow we stopped years ago is the product will provide phishing training. So it will send out sample phishing attacks to users for them to react to. And if they click on the fake attacks, it tells them that this was a phishing attack, and and here's how you could have known. So that training is super important to keep people on their toes. And where it stands today is that it's running. We're seeing it's collecting really interesting information. As I said, this in the last 30 days, we had 100,000 attacks. We can see what kind of attack, where they went, who they're impersonating the most. And as you can imagine, presidents are high on that list. So they're impersonating a president to say, take action now. Apparently last month, I gave away about 700 e-bikes, which I was surprised to hear. So I was high on that list as well. So once we're absolutely sure that this isn't going to do any damage, because what we don't want to do is turn on a system that flags or removes legitimate emails. Our test, and we expect that testing to be finished in the next couple of weeks. We'll turn it on, and then I'll be excited to bring this back to the committee to show all the wonderful impact it's had for us. And I'll pause there again before I go on to MFA.
We're really all disappointed we didn't get an e-bike, though, Robert. I feel like
Yeah.
you need to bring an update on that at the next report. I wanted to ask the attack you talked about, the one that came in that was on the last slide, I think, or said before. Out of curiosity, do you know which phishing exercise it was? That came in, because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going around all the time. I've been getting a lot of the like fake invitation ones, right? That look like they're coming from an event company, but they're not. Someone you haven't seen in 10 years is inviting you to a special party. I'm curious. Do you know what that one was?
Yes, we.
Can you tell us?
Yes.
I don't want you to say anything you're not supposed to.
Yeah, we determined this an email that is shared for use in admissions. There was one email that was very persuasive, and somebody clicked on that link. We found the email that caused the compromise. And unfortunately, what the actor did was take control of the email box and then send out to prospective students an additional phishing attempt to get the students' information. That was about 1,500 students impacted. We sent them communication. We were able to thwart any additional attack before anything awful happened. This is happening under our feet all day long, and we just really need to add these more advanced systems because the attackers are getting more advanced.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about Project 2? Oh yeah, I see Trustee Michaud.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is very interesting. Really appreciate it. And I might have missed it, had to answer the door, but when you find someone that has been phishing or someone's been hacked for that's in your system, do you notify that person as well? And how do you do it? If you do it by email, or do you give them a call to prevent, or do you have any control over that?
Yes, so that's the first thing that happens. The security team locks the account down, contacts the owner, works out a mitigation plan, helps them walk through if there's any kind of virus or backdoor installed on their system. We have to remediate that before we can turn their account back on. So you can imagine all the steps. And if we have hundreds of these things going on, it takes. That's all we're doing is putting out fires. So we've got to have these systems in place that prevent that. But yes, we do have a protocol for all of that.
Yeah. Now, I'm not familiar with this sort of thing. So, for instance, probably a lot of the board of trustees have a EDU account on our laptop. So if someone hacks into that, can they actually get into the laptop itself? And how do you deal with that? That it's
or is it just focused on that email account?
So the email account has potentially, if you have access to other systems, like if you had an account in our payroll system or something like that, they can use your account compromised to get into another system. They could trick you into clicking a link that puts a backdoor on your laptop, whether it's personal or university owned. And once they have access to your laptop, they have access to anything on your laptop. And again, this is why it's such a focus of mine, because what we don't want is someone to wake up one day and realize that their Schwab account is empty. I mean, that is my worst nightmare. So again, the previous CISO was really amazing at standing up our security office, getting the team in place, putting policies in place, restricting controls on all of our systems. And where this new CISO is taking us is preventative, proactive systems to prevent it in the first place. But is it going to be 100% hardened? Absolutely not, because the threat actors change what they do every day, and they're so tricky. They call you on the phone. They say they're from UMS and they're IT, and they know all your information already because they took it from online, and they're very convincing. And they say, hey, could you press this button for us because we need to update your account? And you go in and do it. It's such a shame too, because people, and I'll use shame twice. People who are tricked feel shamed that they caused the problem, but it's really not the victim's fault. It is just that these attackers are so good at their jobs. But yeah, to not scare you too much, absolutely. If your account is compromised, then they have other layers to go down to get more and more information from you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we can move on to
MFA?
Project 3.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm all the great questions. I'm going longer than I.
You're doing great. You're doing great. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule, so it's fine.
Okay.
You're good.
So the third layer of security is MFA, and I so appreciate all the staff of the campuses that had to endure this, because every time we add something like this, it feels dogmatic. It feels like another thing they have to do every day to maintain. But multi-factor authentication has been the best thing to stop, particularly the payroll fraud that we were fighting a couple of years ago. And other aspects, but adding that has been the single best thing we've done. But we didn't have it for all of our students. So we have 37,000 active accounts that don't have this additional protection, and that's really what I'm going to talk about here. So this third security layer is a part of a broader identity management project, although I'm just framing it. This part is the multi-factor piece. And if email is how the attackers get in the door, the stolen password is the key to everything else, as we sort of just talked about. 86% of our confirmed incidents began with a stolen credential through a phishing attempt. If the person had multi-factor authentication on the systems that matter after that, that stolen credential doesn't matter. Because they can't get into the system without that additional step. So this project does a few things, but it replaces Duo that's our current MFA product, with Microsoft Entra. The identity platform we already own as a part of our Microsoft licensing. So our rationale is threefold. First, cost. Duo carries a separate annual licensing cost and covers only a subset of our population because it's so expensive. Entra is already included in the licensing that's included with all of our Microsoft products. So full conversion to Entra eliminates that separate cost entirely. which is nice. The project extends MFA because there's no additional costs and we have licenses for everybody. It extends our ability to offer it to all students and all of the employees under our identity system. It requires the new system is also just better. It requires legacy. It retires legacy methods like text message codes, which are increasingly easy to defeat, and it enables phishing resistant methods like using pass keys and hardware security keys, which we already require for our highest security users, and our platforms, partners like Salesforce have begun mandating for privileged accounts. So the new MFA enrollment campaign launched August 12th for approximately 37,000 students who don't yet have MFA. I will say there was about half the students at UM did have MFA, and it was because of their mobile card requirements. But it still impacted quite a few students there. But 37,000 students that have open accounts with us will received a message on August 12th to say, congratulations, we now have this, and here are documents to get started. We did this ahead of move-in and orientation deliberately, so that we could have time to prepare for questions, so that we could put signage out. IT staff were on site during things like Bridge Week, and reminders of course will be going out all through September. We did not put any sort of cut off or hard requirement on this, because we want students to come in and get started, not be disrupted by this account change when they're trying to get going on their courses. And then once they're comfortable and we see that we have voluntary adoption, and we get over the tipping point of most students, then we'll start to be more annoying with our messages until we can get everybody in. Overall, the project, I would say, our estimate is about 77% complete. The first phase, moving all of our centrally authenticated applications into the new platform, is essentially done. The student enrollment phase is 86% done with support readiness complete. The service desk is trained. The knowledge base is published, including guides for students without smartphones. And of course, we did validation testing with small groups of students and got their feedback on the Getting Started guide. I'll mention one piece of this work I'm particularly pleased with, because it shows the level of care. The team built its own support console for this transition, helped us staff. When it comes to passwords and accounts, this is the highest percentage of call we get. I've forgotten my password. I don't know how to get in. I've locked myself out. That kind of call. So they built their own custom system that has all the information right handy to all the different systems that a student could have access to, and a complete process for them to validate the identity of the caller, and log in and control that reactivation and help the student through that process. So what's ahead? The current phase closes with a gate in October. As I mentioned, we want to see what the numbers look like. Well, we don't want to underreact or overreact. So once we get most of the students in, we'll begin the sort of cleanup and pestering with the last students, and then we'll set some sort of required by date in the future once we're comfortable we got most people in. We certainly didn't want to interrupt enrollment for this project. And then after we get everybody in MFA, we still have thousands of accounts that use the old Duo system. We're not requiring them to switch over to Entra because we didn't want to confound the project or cause two problems at once. So then we'll start to do messaging out to employees who use Duo to switch over to the Entra licensing. And we have a contract with Duo until 2028. So essentially that's our cliff. We have to get everybody off Duo so that we don't have to renew that product in the future. I'll pause there before I move to Ascend.
One question I have is, does multi-factor change the timeline for how often you have to change your password, or is it still, it's like every 6 months? Is that what, I don't know. I don't remember what it is. It's something, there's a regular interval, but
Yeah, we're bringing forward, actually NIST standards and other agencies have already recognized that was a poor practice to force people to change passwords, because what the unintended consequence of that is you have to write them down. So then they're exposed, or you put them in a notepad on your phone or something like that, which exposes them. That you will choose something easy to remember instead of something difficult. And so for all of those reasons, most national organizations are recommending a longer password, but not requiring a reset unless you feel the account is compromised, kind of a system. Plus, with multi-factor, the password becomes less important now that we have those. So we are going to be bringing, I've already seen the draft from our CISO, a proposal forward to suggest that the password length requirement changes, and that we take away the password resetting, which I think users would really appreciate.
I think they definitely would.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Alexander.
Is the Entra system the equivalent of using this Microsoft app called Authenticator, where I have to click on the Authenticator app to generate a entry password into the site? That is not that's not something I have a control over, except I have to use that app as the method of gaining access.
So that is one way, but we have, Entra doesn't dictate that's the only way. So we have, you can get temporary passcodes, you can get hardware keys, and that's, and we are having to work out little nuances. Just to give you a flavor for this is, for example, the prison system doesn't allow a phone, and so they can't use the Authenticator app, and they don't allow hardware keys for some reason. So we're restricting how those students, because we do have a few, particularly at UMA, how they connect with our systems so that we can work around the MFA. But yes, that is one method using the Authenticator.
Yeah, I've seen a number of legal firms with which I have to interact to get access to a database, requiring or suggesting that the Microsoft Authenticator is the best way. And I found that very easy to use. Thank you.
Oh, good. Yep.
Other questions about Project 3 before we move to Project 4? Keep going, Robert.
Okay. The last project, and I saved it for last deliberately because it was the one where we may have a timeline slipping, and deserves most explanation because of all the confusion and conversation we had at the last meeting. So Ascend, to recap, Ascend is the replacement for the software called Advance, the legacy fundraising donor system, with a modern Salesforce-based platform will serve all of our universities and their affiliated foundations, with identical functionality at every campus and a centralized support structure for the back-end pieces. Target go live was September the last we talked. Days after that meeting, that date was quickly moved, primarily by my team, because the vendor suggestion on training for the project plan was way too short when we reviewed that. So that was the first push out. We would like to finish before the holidays. However, the availability of campus staff is limited as they are fully scheduled with their daily operations. So we have to balance moving forward and keeping operations going with very limited teams. Some campuses only having one person, as an example. Overall, the implementation, my estimation is stands at about 44% complete, and much of it is going. What we do finish is quality and going well. but there's just a lot of it to finish. The finance integration, as an example, is about 95% complete, and we expect to sign off completely on that aspect this week. The student system integration is about 70% with a clear path forward, so there's not really any huge blockers. There are some challenges and some errors and things that we're working with the vendor on, and the staff, obviously. Every category of donor data is the heavy lift, is being validated record by record against our legacy system, which didn't have necessarily clean data to begin with. So, and that's the right way to convert decades of donor history. We don't want to send out a campaign where we're saying Mr. instead of Miss, or not putting doctor, or just wrong addresses or wrong names and all of that. That makes us look bad and upsets our donors for sure. So again, November remains our target, but I want to be straightforward that the validation work in front of us is substantial. And if it's not finished to all of our standards, particularly if the staff at each of the universities is not happy with how the data is coming over, we're going to continue to work on it until it's the way it needs to be. So my commitment to you is high quality conversion, not a fast one. We go live once and we go live right. We don't want to be in the paper about a big mess. So let me give you a bit of a sense of what this validation actually means, because the scale is easy to underestimate. The conversion covers 91 categories of data: donor information, organization, gifts, historic gifts, pledges, relationships, with hundreds of test records checked field by field against the legacy system on the campus, which all has to be done by the advancement professionals at each of the universities, because they're the ones who know the information. So it's painstaking work, and it's layered on top of those teams, as I said, the jobs they're already doing. So they can't stop a campaign. They can't tell the president to wait for information they need about people, or about events they're trying to pull off and those kinds of things. So they have to step aside from this work and do those things, and we totally understand that. But their thoroughness is what's going to make the conversion really trustworthy in the end. And while I'm overly stressing the fact that we're just balancing current need and workforce need and what we have to get done, we do have momentum. We have 32 data categories now fully signed off at every campus, up from just 8 by the end of July. So that includes all the core biographical data, which is the most important pieces of this, have been signed off. So what's IT doing to support this? We added, realizing that there's much more to be done. First of all, 2 years ago, we requested and received 2 additional staff positions, a system analyst position and a report writing position. And those folks, so we have this dedicated IT staff member is working directly with the campuses on questions, blockers in real time. This person came from another institution that already uses the new system, so they're very knowledgeable. Working through how to apply the system in our environment and the way we want to use it is always the challenge, but they're there for them. Our database administrator has joined on a parallel track on the data pipeline. So we're converting data faster so that validating staff can work when they can and not be waiting on us for any of that. The validation status, we're also sharing a detailed status weekly with the whole team plus the university presidents, so that every institution sees the same picture and can plan their campaigns and their the implementation accordingly. So when we one last thing I want to mention here, that it isn't my preference or a normal way to do an implementation. It's just something the vendor is requiring. They have no other option for us. When we do the final data load, So we're taking everything that's happening on the current system and getting the rest of it into the new system. The plan for that is to have both systems unavailable for about 2 weeks, which also speaks to carefully scheduling over the holiday or a period where that information won't be as needed, and having some backup ways to at least get information even if we can't update it. But again, not a preference by anybody on the team, but we'll have a downtime of about 2 weeks when we do the final cutover. Again, why my team and the staff are all very stressing that we have to make sure everything's quality so that we're not doing the cutover, shutting everything off, and then finding problems. We want to make sure it's absolutely ready to go. So that's really all for, and what I hope you take away this morning is that we're really raising the system's defenses as quickly as we can. We're doing it in layers. We're doing it on a priority basis, and largely with outside funding, which is always nice, and using existing licenses. The team is very cost conscious, and then the timeline on the Ascend project to be flexible. We did, I didn't mention this about the Ascend. We did talk about a sort of a cliff that the current system sort of runs out. Our current system, we own the licenses, so we don't really, we can go when we're ready. We don't have a date by which we have to get off the old system. The downside, though, is that we're not going to get software updates, which is not ideal. So we don't want this to take forever or drag out any longer. It's already been 5.5 years, but we do want to go when we're all feeling confident and ready.
Thank you, Robert. I'm sure you're working with the various foundations and the constituencies on the timing of the 2 weeks off. I do know end of year fundraising is some of the most important fundraising that they do in an entire year, including and right up until midnight on December 31st, and including things being postmarked for December 31st that then arrive the week after and need accounting for. So I assume you're going to work with the foundations to make sure it is the least inconvenient of ultimately inconvenient times to do that, because the holidays may not be the right time, actually.
Yeah, we'll flip it around. They will tell us.
Great.
So it's not even me working with them.
Even better.
Yeah, absolutely. We meet one-on-one with each of the universities every week, but we also have group meetings with them every week as well. So.
Great. Thank you. Any questions about section 4 before we move ahead to the rest of the agenda? Yes. Trustee Rosen.
Hi, thank you. Very informative and easily digestible presentation. Thank you. Going forward, and I'll tag you with this question, even though it really goes beyond IT and it may not be quite fair, but in the spirit of the security issues that you confront, I'd be curious to understand the kind of this current status of fraudulent student accounts and where that type of issue stands from a prevention and security perspective. I know it's a big deal nationally, and I just throw that out for a future information request. Thank you.
That's great.
Good teeing up something that I plan to bring forward. Identity is the primary way students enroll. They apply. They look like Jane Doe. They have all Jane Doe's information. They apply for scholarship dollars and federal financial aid. They take all the money and they leave, and they weren't really Jane Doe. And then a few years later, Jane Doe comes to enroll in college, and they realize that their financial aid amounts have been reduced because someone stole them. So that happens nationally, and it's a huge problem we're all facing. I think in terms of priorities of security layering, and it's certainly something that our CISO is already working with vendors and our staff to discuss how we can do better identity verification up front, because we really don't know what, particularly when we have remote students, when they're completely online and they might be from, somewhere in California or something. We don't ever meet them in person. It's really hard to know if they're who they say they are. So we have plans for that. So I'll bring that forward, sir.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Robert, and thank you. I want to add my thanks again for the slides and for the overview. It was helpful to have in advance and also to help follow what is very complicated information for the committee. So thank you very much. If there are no other questions, we'll keep things moving here. We'll move now to tab 7, which is the University of Maine System Annual Real Estate and Lease Activity Report. Gretchen, I have you teed up for this one.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Kane. Before we move into the actual report, I just wanted to recognize Jessica Howe's work and the evolution of this annual real estate report process. So I'm going to take a little diversion and share my screen really quickly to show you this is what you used to receive for the report back in 2019. So just to give you a little bit of grounding in terms of the comparison of this report to what you're going to see today. So I will stop sharing. When we look back at that report, it was largely transactional. So what did we buy, sell, lease, and what were we required to report on to the board? What Jess has helped us build is something much more useful. So the report is now becoming more of a management tool. It connects real estate activity to strategy, lease costs, revenue, square footage, acreage, even MOUs that we have between universities. So Jess has brought a real focus on discipline and clarity to the real estate process. She helps facilitate quarterly meetings with each of the universities to discuss their real estate initiatives and future plans. And she helps organize the data to improve the narrative and make the report more transparent. So I'd like to thank her for her help with that, and really want to, as we continue to evolve and as we move through the master planning process, you're going to continue seeing this report evolve to meet your needs. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jess to walk us through the report.
That was quite an intro. I think that we're all excited now. Jess, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Gretchen and Chair Kane. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to provide this fiscal year 26 real estate and lease activity report. So rather than walk through every figure in the report, I want to focus today on the major changes that we've seen from fiscal year 25, the significant real estate activity during the year, and a few trends that are worth highlighting as we move into fiscal year 27. So at a high level, lease activity increased in fiscal year 26. As the landlord, the system generated approximately $755,000 in lease revenue across 72 leases. And that represents an increase of about 26% in revenue compared with fiscal year 25. As the tenant, we incurred approximately $5.2 million in lease costs across 61 leases, with an increase of about 16%. Those 72 landlord leases and 61 tenant leases represent the total number active at one point during fiscal year 26 rather than a point in time count. And so as we move into fiscal year 27, those numbers have already changed. On the real estate side, there were 3 dispositions completed and 2 acquisitions. And we've also, as Gretchen mentioned, expanded the information we track this year by adding acreage alongside of square footage, which gives us a better picture of the system's overall lease portfolio. So looking first at our real estate transactions, there were 3 dispositions during fiscal year 26. 2 of those dispositions were easements, one at UMaine with a utility company and one with UMA related to a prior disposition of property to Bangor Housing. The third was USM sale of 175 Ostby Trail in Gorham for $75,000. And you would have seen this in front of the FFT committee for disposition in April 2025 before the property closed in July of 2025. In addition, UMaine received a 4-acre land donation on Bennick Road, and the system completed the 7 custom house acquisition in June. In fact, that actually closed right on June 30th, so it just made the fiscal year 26 report. That acquisition added approximately 53,000 square feet to the system's real estate portfolio. There was one demolition reported in fiscal year 26, which I'm sure all of you are very familiar with, Crossland Hall at UMaine, totaling approximately 11,800 square feet. We're also continuing to track previously authorized real estate actions through completion, and that have been presented to the board in the past few years. So one being the UMF facilities building, which had previously been authorized for sale, has been removed from the market while the campus evaluates next steps and considers how future transactions will fit into their master plan. In addition, UMA's Bangor Hall was authorized for disposition in January of 2025, and the university is currently in active negotiations with an interested party. As Gretchen mentioned, we also, one area we want to highlight is the use of our internal space sharing agreements across the system. So we currently have several MOUs where the university is providing space to one another. These include space sharing agreements between UMA and UMaine, Fort Kent and the UMaine Extension Office, USM and UMA, and a new one for fiscal year 26 where UMA provides space in Robinson Hall for the USM's Kathleen Cutler Institute. This new arrangement is quite exciting for USM as it resulted in significant cost savings when downsizing and exiting a commercial lease. These arrangements, again, are really important because they allow us to make better use of space already within the system rather than automatically looking to the external market. We will also expect to see additional space sharing MOUs to be established for the main center in fiscal year 27. On the real estate side, we will anticipate a few additional closings for the Hutchinson Center, 300 4th Street, and the Umpy Bike Path property in early fiscal year 27. The bike path might not sound familiar to this group as this falls below board threshold, but the land was assessed by an appraiser to provide us with fair market value for that sale. So additionally, this slide is going to provide you with turning to lease activity. Both landlord and tenant counts increased during fiscal year 26. Landlord increases from 58 to 72 and tenant from 52 to 61. And if I didn't make this clear earlier on in the report, when I say landlord and tenant, that's UMS as the landlord or UMS as the tenant. So any of the universities involved in that. So revenue increased approximately 26% from the previous fiscal year, while the tenant lease costs increased around 16%. And one important reporting distinction is that all these numbers represent all lease activity that occurred at any point during the fiscal year. So if a lease ended in March, we're still accounting for everything that was incurred or spent on at that point. And this becomes important when we get to the square footage, because the square footage is a snapshot of in time of what was still active as of June 30th. So this slide provides the campus level detail behind these totals. I'm not going to walk through every row, but a couple things that are worth noting. UMaine had the largest number of individual landlord and tenant leases. USM continues to generate the largest amount of landlord revenue at approximately $313,000. And on the tenant side, UMA and the system office account for the largest lease costs, followed by UMaine. On the landlord side, the most noticeable year-over-year change is UMA. UMA's lease revenue increased approximately $10,000 in fiscal year 25 to approximately $130,000 in fiscal year 26 as a result of newly leased space. This came from an acquisition of property where they inherited leases after that purchase. USM continues to be the system's largest landlord from a revenue perspective, and essentially remains stable year over year at approximately $313,000. Otherwise, most of the remaining campuses saw relatively modest changes. On the tenant side, UMaine, UMA, and the system office continue to account for the majority of our lease space costs. One change that stands out is USM's lease costs decreased by approximately 88%. That decrease is largely the result of USM exiting that external lease for the Kathleen Cutler Institute and relocating that operation onto UMA's campus under that MOU that I mentioned earlier. So again, it's a good example of why we're looking closer at these opportunities for internal space utilization. And it's also important to note that the report does not assign internal MOU costs as lease revenue or lease expense. So what you're seeing here is the avoided external lease costs. Jumping over to square footage. Square footage slide tells somewhat of a different story than our lease count. This is a point in time snapshot as of June 30th, rather than all activity during the fiscal year. On the tenant side, most of the larger leasing units reduced their lease in square footage compared with fiscal year 25. UMaine, UMA, USM, and the system office all ended fiscal year 26 with less leased in space. The large increase in the system office landlord square footage comes from the acquisition of 7 Custom House right on June 30th. So while the number of leases and total lease costs increased during the year, the amount of externally leased space still active at year end generally are moving downward. This year, we also began to track acreage as a separate metric. It's something that we had in our data, but it wasn't formalized for every single one of our leases. So there's no fiscal year 25 comparison that I can show you because this is our first year really establishing this baseline. But at year end, the system tracked approximately 267 acres leased out and about 1,200 leased in for a total of 1,400 approximately. Most of those leased in acres is associated with UMaine's land leases. And this just gives us a significantly more complete picture of our portfolio than square footage alone. So I do want to call out just a few lease level changes. So UMaine's Advanced Structures and Composite Center reduced its lease footprint in Portland from approximately 5,200 square feet to 2,600 square feet, reducing their annual lease cost from $138,000 to $70,000, which is a great cost savings opportunity for UMaine. UMA was able to do something similar with their lease space at the Rockland Center. And looking ahead, UMA has exited their Rumford and East Millinocket location leases. So those will be reflected in the fiscal year 27 report. And finally, UMA's newest residence hall will also begin appearing in next year's reporting. So if I can leave you with 4 takeaways for fiscal year 26. First, the volume of lease activity has increased. Both landlord revenue and tenant costs increase, although those are separate categories of activity. Third, the system's real estate portfolio continues to evolve through acquisitions, dispositions, demolition, and greater use of internal space sharing arrangements. And finally, our reporting is becoming more comprehensive. Adding acreage this year gives us a stronger baseline for evaluating our true real estate and lease property portfolio going forward. And we're also working to move our information currently tracked in a very manual process into a dashboard that will give campuses clearer day-to-day visibility into their real estate and lease activity. So this will include updates and a new format to our offsite location report. And we really are hoping to incorporate AI into these efforts in line with the broader opportunity to use AI to improve our operational work. So that's all I have for you today. I'm happy to take any questions.
That was definitely a much improved presentation to the graph from before. So strong work on that front. Looks like we have questions or comments from Trustee Gardner and Trustee Riley.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, that's a very good dashboard, very good stuff. 3 quick questions. Do you audit leases as part of our normal audit cadence, or how does that work?
I don't particularly do the auditing, but we do work closely with our controller's office on sharing all of our lease documents.
But do you know if they do, is there any kind of an audit process for, in other words, leases are, I mean, you've got over 100 leases and something's always going on somewhere, nothing nefarious, but there's always some little issue with leases. Do we go back and audit them?
So we do take a look at them when we do those quarterly meetings with each of the universities. So as they're coming up for renewal, we have a discussion and we include general counsel in that effort as well to evaluate the leases and make sure that they're still meeting our needs and they're in our best interest.
Okay. And then second question, from the UMaine stuff, it looks like the amount of square footage has gone down and the lease costs have gone up, which is inflation, but it seemed like a pretty big proportion. Is there something there with that data?
UMaine has a significant amount of short-term leases, so they're where it's normally funded by some of their grant opportunities, so they spend more, but it's only typically during a short period of time during the year.
And it's largely to support their research initiatives. So, but we can get more data on that if it would be helpful.
And I'm not nitpicking, but in other words, with the square footage going down a fair amount and the lease cost going up a fair amount, I'm just curious what that is, but we can, just curious. And third, and don't hold up this whole meeting, but if there's any information, I'm the new guy, so I don't know what the Custom House $20 million acquisition is. If there's any kind of a former board package you could just send over, I'd love to read about it.
Happy to share that with you.
Yep.
Trustee Gordon, that's a great question. And we definitely have a lot of material on that one for sure that you will, that's a good idea.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you trustee Riley?
Well, first of all, congratulations. This has been a long discussion with the board, and it's great to see everything in one place, and so clear and concise. So terrific work. The question I was left with, and I appreciated the campus by campus breakdown of where those leases are. But what I was left with is the leasing cost. I think I remember the numbers may be wrong. The Lewiston lease, for example, the lease is like $60,000. The operating costs are $305,000. So it begged the question of why leasing. Must we lease? These MOUs, campus, university to university, are impressive. We probably should know a little bit more about how that money flows. But I think from the board perspective going forward, it would be useful to really take a hard look at this. Because if we are paying operating costs in leases, while buildings are empty for which we're paying overhead, it raises questions about whether a lease must be incurred. And I appreciate that there are times when that's essential.
It's a great point, and it's something that we are definitely working towards. So we are currently out for bid with our integrated work management system. And once we make an award on that, we're hoping that that will include a module for real estate tracking so that we can actually tie the operational costs, so like utilities, et cetera, to the overall cost of ownership or leasing activities.
Thank you, Trustee Michaud.
Yep, thank you. Actually, this raises the question, is what is your definition of a lease? Because you raised East Millinocket, that was an MOU for sharing expenses. It wasn't a lease. So, and I don't have a copy of that MOU, but it was for educational services. So,
No, absolutely.
So what's your definition of a lease, I guess?
Absolutely. So that's my apologies. I may have misled that one is that one that we track under the MOUs. It was more to say that that's an arrangement that they're exiting. The Rumford one is a lease. So we do track those all separately. And we also, when working with the campuses, will look at whether an arrangement is better off as a license agreement too, which is a little less formal than a lease. But I hope that helps to answer your question a bit.
Yeah, it does. But that raised a red flag. So I'm just wondering on how many other items out there you lumping into as a lease, which they might not be a true lease.
So I think we do have that separated out, as Jessica just noted. The other key point here is some of those older MOUs, we inherited those. So we're taking a look at that and working with general counsel as we go through renewals, et cetera, to make sure that we have the appropriate contract in place to address these.
Okay, that raises another question. You said you inherited them, but when you look at all the centers that were around the state, whether it's the East Millinocket, the Rumford, the Holton Center, those weren't inherited. That was a partnership, and you're breaking away from that partnership. So, I mean, what leases were inherited versus where you worked from the get-go?
So forgive me, I meant when I took over this position, I inherited those into this role.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's important because I know particularly with East Millinocket, there was a lot of confusion on that because that one there was told that the Board of Trustees said we had to get all of it, which we never made such a decision. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think it's important for the board, for myself, is to know what the facts are and not to lump everything in broad terms to try to just confuse the issue. So. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, Gretchen, I'm not saying you're trying to do that, but But that raised a red flag when you said a lease, which it wasn't. It was an MOU for contract for services. So.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that, Trustee Mishu. And I do want to commend the universities, though. I think that this report reflects that we're really trying to be better stewards of our use of space on campus. And like the Cutler Health Institute moving to UMA is a great example of that.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Cates.
Thank you. Gretchen, could you remind us when leases, in our position as a tenant, when leases come up for renewal, we see those on this committee if above a certain threshold, as I recall. Is that right?
Yeah, so when we report or get board authorization for a lease, we include the total term, which includes the renewal terms when we bring it forward to you. So if they've exhausted all those renewal terms that you originally approved, then we bring it back for additional consideration. Does that help?
Yes, so it's at the when it's for renewal following the term and any renewal terms in the original agreement.
Yeah, so essentially we would treat that as like a new lease. So they've exhausted their terms in the previous lease, including those renewal terms. Then we bring it forward for a new lease for your evaluation.
Okay, and do we refresh my memory? If say it's a 3-year lease with a 3-year renewal option, do we get some sort of notification of the fact that the renewal option is coming up?
So I'm trying to, we would bring it forward if you previously approved it,
Right.
and the totality of the term has been exhausted and the university wants to continue in that relationship, we bring it back forward for you. So
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back to Trustee Mishu.
Yep. Thank you, Trustee. Actually, Trustee Cates raised another question. I guess Gretchen, I'm familiar with the leases, but what about MOUs? Does the board see the MOUs?
So the board guidance right now, the board policy does not address MOUs.
And how many MOUs are out there, and what's the total cost of all those MOUs?
That I don't have off the top of my head. Jess, do you have that by chance?
All these types of MOUs, we have less than 10, but more than happy to pull those numbers together and get that over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other questions for Gretchen and Jess? Seeing none, we'll make a note of those follow-up items as well.
Thank you all for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, and excellent job with the presentation. Certainly, a lot, as Trish said, a lot of time and energy has gone into, and feedback has gone into getting us there. The next item on our agenda under tab 8 is the work plan. As I mentioned at the top of the meeting, we'll be sending out a survey about the work plan to FFT committee members to get your feedback. But if there are any questions about it that you want to raise today, we certainly have time to do that. I just wanted to remind you that that's what the survey is going to go out about, to again gauge where you are and where you want to be on existing and potential future items. Trustee Alexander.
Thank you. I look forward to the questionnaire. No comments about that, but there's a whole bunch of material in our agenda package about offsite facilities and a compilation of them, a description of them. Is this on the agenda as a separate item, or was this part of the presentation about leases and properties?
Oh, did I miss something, Ryan? I'm looking at you.
You didn't miss anything. We included it as an information
Just
item.
info item, right? That's what I thought. It was just for info.
And Jess touched on it a little bit, that the current plan is to, right now, this is a carryover. The board asked for that offsite location report a couple of years ago. We've been working with the campuses to keep that up to date, and we look forward to actually transitioning that to a dashboard so that you have a real-time view.
That's great.
Can I just follow up on that?
Please. Yeah.
The offsite, how does the off-site facilities relate to leases, if any?
So if you look at the offsite report, it will tell you if it's an MOU or a lease and the cost of that lease at the point of time that report was generated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I recall, I'll say vaguely, prior discussions in years past about what the board policy might be with respect to determining the value, costs, and potential benefits of looking at these off-site facilities. It would be helpful at some point to get a big picture with respect to how much these facilities are costing us, who's paying for them, and whether there should be or is an ongoing review of whether, quote, we need to keep these. And I know we've had some significant public outcry with respect to trying to deal with some of these facilities, but it would be helpful for me for the big picture about what it is the board ought to be looking at as an overview of, what should we be doing in this area of cost containment and cost benefit. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you. And that will be a key component as well of our master planning effort. So, which properties do we repurpose, maintain, divest from, et cetera. So I think we'll look forward to giving you a more robust update on that in the future.
Great. Thank you.
That's great. And you see Trish's comment in the chat about how it'd be great for the dashboard to include both lease cost and operating costs.
Yes, we've taken note of that. And once we issue an award on our integrated work management system, that will become more feasible to do that total cost of ownership.
Great. Thank you. Ryan, did you have something you wanted to add on the work plan?
Yes, just back on the work plan. I thought your survey summed it up well. Looking forward to hearing feedback. I've heard several different things today that would be ripe for these kind of sessions. I did want to note just kind of one correction that we adjusted last year, and then I forgot to adjust on our first draft of this, and that is the last bullet under ad hoc, which is multi-year financial and structural gap analysis. As you know, I do that 5-year report annually. A couple of years ago, we made the decision to shift that to November because it made sense to do it after census. Otherwise, we were having the institutions work on numbers that were changing at that point in time. And then if they were way off at census, we were giving you a document that was already stale. So we pushed that to November for good reason, and I should have made that correction. So when we move to finalize this, we'll make that adjustment.
Thank you. Any other work plan questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll get that survey out to you later this week. Tab 9, strategic plan tracking update. Excellent work. But Gretchen, is there anything you want to add, or Ryan?
I think we've largely touched on a lot of the updates that we already included in the update. So if anyone has any additional questions, I'm happy to help answer them from a facility perspective.
We definitely covered a lot.
Ryan, anything that you want to add to that?
Nope, all of our items tend to be budget or facilities related. We've checked them off, or we're just about to enter that phase.
Great. That's great. That concludes the public portion of our agenda for the FFT committee meeting today. Before we move into executive session, I want to just thank everyone for their hard work going into this meeting and for everyone's time this morning. And again, with your accommodation to the earlier start time, the committee is not planning to come back after executive session for public session. So you can hang on if you want, but you don't have to after we go into executive session. But I'll just check to see if there's anything else anyone wants to comment or raise before we move into executive session. Seeing none, thank you. I will then, Beth, are we good to move toward executive session now? Thank you. Could I have a motion for the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee of the Board of Trustees to go into executive session under the provisions of 1 MRSA Section 4056-C to discuss the condition, acquisition, or disposition of real property or economic development if premature disclosure of the information would prejudice the competitive or bargaining position of the UMaine system.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
And seconded. Great, thank you. Beth, would you take the roll?
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yep.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
Yes.
Trustee Rosen,
Yes.
Trustee Gordon,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll move into executive session.
Thank you all very much and have a great rest of your day.